Hey guys! In today's video, I'm going to be talking about how to keep your art looking fresh and how to have new ideas. If you hear anything in the background, it's my bunnies hopping around and sneezing and being really stupid. And I might also be sneezing because I have the worst rabbit allergies. So before we get started, I wanted to say thank you so much to Skillshare for sponsoring this video. If you don't know what Skillshare is, it's an online learning community with over 20,000 classes in design, animation, photography, marketing, business, all of that good stuff. So anything that you could really learn in a creative field or even with being an entrepreneur, there is a bunch of classes teaching you how to better do all of that stuff, taught by experts in their fields. And so anybody can take a class. Each class will have a class project, which the instructor will grade and, well, not grade, they're going to look at it and tell you their thoughts. So it's a very constructive community. I would say that the complexity of these classes are between a YouTube video, like a more in-depth YouTube video, and an online college course. Premium membership starts at $10 a month, so if you would like to try out the website, I will have a link down in the description for a free 2-month trial to the website. So thank you so much to Skillshare for sponsoring this video. I love their stuff, I love their work, and it kind of ties in to this video. So I just wanted to tell you my 5 tips on how to keep your art looking fresh and how to have new ideas. And so I personally, in my style, I excel in this when it comes to my mediums and different stylistic choices that I make, not so much on my subject matter and on my creativity. Those are more of my weak points, but I'll get into that later. So first off, I would say that the first thing you can do to help you be inspired is to have a social media where you can find lots of different kinds of content that will inspire you. So I personally use Pinterest. I have a bunch of beautiful images that are recommended to me, and they range from design, clothing, art, typography, photography, and more. So just a bunch of different things that will inspire me. They're not specifically anything that I create, like the kind of artwork that I create. They're usually something that's much more different than what I would ever create. So I'm very inspired by what this is weird how to explain it. There's different kinds of artists, and I'm more inspired by artists that are older, like they're men working in more professional creative fields, and so they would be doing either concept art or a lot of fairy tale illustrations. That kind of thing really inspires me. It's kind of different from what I create, and so I would suggest that you find a social media that has a bunch of different, like an amalgam of images that you can save and you can look at them. They're not all the same thing. They're not the same style as you would have. And so you could do this on Instagram if you wanted to. One thing that I do, I will find Instagram pages that will feature other artists' work. Now, this is kind of controversial because a lot of times these accounts will start and repost people's artwork for free, and you think that it's also cool because they're featuring other artists, but in that way they will get a lot of followers, and so by the time they reach 200 or 300,000 followers, they start to charge people to feature their artwork, or they'll put ads on their Instagram accounts. So they'll basically be making money off of other people's artwork because they featured big artists to begin with. So all that to be said, I don't 100% support feature accounts on Instagram. However, I think that it's a lot of times a good way to find new artists. And so what I personally do is I will follow one of these pages, and I won't necessarily like their posts, but I will always look at the artists that are tagged. I'll follow those artists. So if I'll see an artwork I like, I'm not going to just like that one image that's featured on their account. I'm going to go to the artist's tag and find that specific image. I'm going to like it, and I'm going to see their body of work. And if I like it, I'll start to follow that artist. So I'm not necessarily contributing to the feature account, but it's still a good way to find new artists. It's just kind of a life hack for me. And the second thing kind of ties into this is don't look at artists similar to you for inspiration. So you'll know that there are artists that have a similar skill set to you, like similar following, demographic, their style is very similar to you. I think that you should find inspiration in those people when it comes to their artwork. I definitely recommend having those people in your life and people you follow, make friends with them and use them for work inspiration. Use them, talk to them about things that are, challenges and things that are going well for them and for you. It's kind of like an art buddy that you have, but don't necessarily use their artwork to inspire you. Take this with a grain of salt. Of course, anybody can inspire you, but don't let your main inspiration come from people who have a very similar skill set to you. That way, Why did my voice just crack? I think my rabbit allergies are taking themselves to a whole nother level. Bun just stuck his head out from behind a box. Okay, I'm sorry, I'm getting distracted. That way you will start to kind of maybe copy parts of their style. And since there's not so much of a difference between your artwork and theirs, there's not so much that you can do differently. Like if you borrow something from their style, it will be much more evident because you already have similar styles. And in that way, since you have similar skill sets, you're not going to be learning as much from them as you could possibly be learning from somebody else. You just have to find artists that are of a way different skill set than you, that you look up to, something that you really would like to attain in the future in maybe a couple of years. So have inspirations that are really big and that they're very intense. That way, if you follow people who have different skill sets than you, that are much better at what they do than you, maybe they've had a lot more experience and have spent much more time on this, they're much more professional than you are, I think that you have a lot more to learn from them. And especially if their styles are not similar to yours, there can be things in their style that you could incorporate into yours that won't be as evident as if you if you were inspired by somebody who had a very similar skill set to you. This ties into the third point, which is to be inspired by crazy different artists and mediums. Don't specifically look at things that you usually gravitate towards, but things that are still very inspiring. So for me, it's a lot more like quote unquote guy art, things that are much more like mythical creatures and paintings from the Renaissance time period that are super grandiose and they have to do with heaven and hell and there's angels and demons and a bunch of things that I don't really incorporate into my artwork at the moment. I think that being inspired by artists who are much more grand than you are is a good idea. This will give you new perspectives and ideas, but it will also help you to not directly copy inspiration, since you're looking at something that is completely different from what you would normally create. So it's not like, it's something that is so similar to your own style, and then you see something you like, so you incorporate it into your style, and then in the end it turns out looking like you just copied their artwork. Oh, my voice keeps cracking. I'm so sorry. It's just something that is so different from what you would create that it's not necessarily it will not come off as if you're copying it. You're just taking inspiration from things that are very different. My fourth tip is to try out new mediums and break some rules when it comes to those mediums. That's how I personally experiment and keep my ideas fresh, because if you've seen my body of work, I'm not so hot on my subject matter and creativity. Those are my weak points, but I think I excel more in my colors and my lighting and my use of mediums. I really feel like it's a weak point that I use so many mediums and my body of work is not as cohesive as other people's, but I think other people would look at that in my artwork and think that's a strong point. So personally, I just know that I like to experiment with all these different mediums. I always try out a new medium. So like at the moment it's acrylic and gouache. Or if I'm not trying out a new medium, I'm just going to be jumping around from like oils to watercolors to digital to sketches to acrylic. Hi, Bun. So try out a new medium. I think that it's good to do that because when you're starting out in art, you're bad at everything. I think I've said this in a previous video too. You're bad at everything, and so you can't really be afraid to mess up at one thing versus another, because it's not like you're so good at drawing portraits and good at drawing animals. Because you're bad at drawing everything, you can just experiment and be free with it and learn. So when you try out a new medium, I think it's the same thing. Since you have no previous knowledge, you can just let yourself free. You don't have inhibitions. You're not like, oh, I'm already good at this, I can't make a mistake. You will try new things out and you'll experiment and see if something works for you. So you can learn that way from trying out new mediums. Lastly, my fifth tip is to do an art prompt. So this ties in both with Skillshare and school, and this is not even because this video is sponsored by Skillshare. I was sitting here thinking of points for this video and I was like, wait a second, Skillshare does that. For me personally, I have to step out of my comfort zone every day because I am a graphic design major at college. I have prompts that are so different than my illustrative work, and so I always need to come up with creative solutions. If you would see my graphic design work, it's completely different from what I do here on Instagram, just because it'll have to be more professional. Like I sometimes, like for the more personal projects, I will always incorporate illustration into my design because I think that's just a really fun and unique feature, how would I explain it, of my own artwork. It's my own style. But when it comes to having to do like a business brochure or something that's much more grown up or not so childish or girly, I really have to take on a different style. And so I think that having prompts that make you step out of your comfort zone is a very good thing to do. If you're not in college and you don't have assignments like this, I would recommend taking an online class on something that you normally wouldn't think to pursue. So that's where Skillshare comes in. Learning more and expanding your knowledge will give you a new perspective and will help you see things differently. With Skillshare, since you can take a class, you can do the class project and the instructor can grade it, you can try something out that you've never tried before. So for me personally, if I have time, I would really like to learn After Effects, and it's something that I could, since I have no idea of anything in After Effects, I would really have a fresh canvas and a blank page to start with, and I could start with a project that is completely different from my own illustrative style. And having an instructor who can look at that and give you constructive feedback. Oh my god. My bunnies are just like sitting around me. I think they like my voice, so both of them are just around my chair. So I feel loved right now. Having somebody give you constructive feedback on your artwork and telling you what you did really well and what could be improved in a later project, I think those things are extremely helpful and they can help you get out of your comfort zone and keep your art looking different. And so once you try out a different kind of medium, a different program, or a different art prompt, you can come back to your own style with the things that you learned from that very different thing that you just learned. And you can incorporate it into your own artwork and have like a fresh perspective into your illustrative work. So I hope that was helpful. If you like this video, please give me a thumbs up. A couple of things. First, that I made this painting in Krita with my WH1409 version 2 Huion tablet. It took me around 6 hours, I think. Secondly, I wanted to let you know that my shop is open. I have it updated and I have all of my prints like up for sale. They are all on sale, and you can also use the code CUPCAKE for 10% off stickers, pins, and prints. I also have apparel up, and I have 4 originals up for sale, so if you want to check those out, the link will be down in the description for my shop. Use the code CUPCAKE for 10% off. This is the last time I will be having any of these prints up for sale. This is like the limited edition stock, and once they're sold out, they're sold out. I will not be making these prints anymore. So if you want to check them out, link will be down in the description. Thank you so much for checking out my shop. And thank you, by the way, for all of your support just over the past couple of months. If you don't follow me on Instagram, you wouldn't know, but I moved out. I mean, I have my own apartment here at college. I live by myself. So this was just because I really wanted to focus more on my artwork, and having roommates really distracted me from that, from, you know, my business, my shop, and YouTube. And so I'm hoping that this next school year, I am going to be able to focus much more on my artwork and on YouTube, on Patreon, and on my shop. So I would really appreciate, since this is like a big transitional time period in my life, if you do like my artwork, just supporting me by either following me or getting something from my shop, leaving a comment down below on things you'd like to see in my shop or new video ideas. I just wanted to thank everybody who has been supporting me, just because I feel like I've not been on the radar completely, and I've just still had a lot of people that still let me know that they really like my artwork and they still follow me, and they're very supportive of me right now. Okay. I'm so awkward. You have ideas for new video topics for me, either for paintings or for me talking to the camera, that kind of thing, leave them down in the description. I would really appreciate it. That's one thing that I'm really lacking at the moment, is video ideas. So if you guys can give me video ideas, I would greatly appreciate it. Okay, I need to put my bunnies away because they're being crazy and they're just hopping around everywhere. I will talk to you guys in my next video. Bye. Oh my god.